ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in your diapers. Welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius. Today we are going to talk about some really super cool stuff. We got a great video game to talk about that works in Roblox. A book about a wildfire in Florida. My bowling scores and we got a really awesome guest. The one, the only, the Chicago Bear Hug himself, Steve Michales. Steve is a male professional wrestler. Thank you, Steve, for joining me on the show.
Absolutely, Tiberius. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
And now it's time for the video game of the week.
Today's video game is Super Bloxy Ball. You can find SPB on the Roblox platform on PC, console, and even your cell phone. I think it is great. Super Bloxy Ball is set up with your friends and other people where you are a marble. You can get skins and colors, and you can play around in a lobby. Get around 20 people in the same game. The object of the game is a race. There are a number of tracks, and the goal is a best of all of them. I get first place a lot. You can go very fast and hit speed boosters to go even faster. As long as you go 3 laps before everyone else, ding ding ding, you win! And you get lots of money. I get Super Bloxy Ball 10 out of 10 stars because it is so much fun to play with your friends and very competitive. I think everyone should play Super Bloxy Ball. And Steve, have you ever played Roblox before?
I've never played the game before. This is the first time hearing about it, but it sounds super cool.
Yeah.
Like, is it so you collect marbles, or like how does it, like, do you level up with the game?
No, you don't like level up, but you can like find different like balls. And actually, if you go around the loop-de-loop, if you hit that speed booster, you can get a new marble. It's a light blue oof head.
That sounds pretty cool.
And actually, in the middle of the bottom, it's kind of like sideways like this. And it's a light green oof head.
Oh yeah? Is it easy to get to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the speed booster one, not easy.
That's a tough one to get.
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to try that game. I'll download it when I get home.
Yes. Well, actually, in the slime factory, there's kind of like a Nickelodeon ball.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
The slime's always fun, so.
Yes, but actually you don't like hit the slime.
Does the slime like hurt your vehicle?
No.
Oh, okay. It just does. It's just kind of there.
It kind of like hits you back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds super fun. It sounds super fun. I'm glad you told me about it.
Yeah, it's pretty much fun. The Tiberius Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com. The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of our dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom Braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering, to trophies and awards. They can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373.
And now we're all ready for the book of the week.
Big track HTW. This book was written by the Florida Division of Emergency Management. Let me read you the back of the book. In fact, Mr. Michales, would you like to do the honor?
Absolutely, I would. The back of the book says, "What would you do if a wildfire threatened you and your family?" Read Megatrack HTW to find out how Sam and his friends kept themselves and their most valuable possessions safe from harm. That is not informative.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The story is about a 10-year-old named Sam, and his track was threatened by a wildfire in Florida. His friend Jacob's mom works for the TV station so he can help people know what's going on. He and his family are told by the police to leave. He has to leave his favorite track. It burns down. At least he is still alive. I thought this book was the most boring book I have ever read in my whole entire life.
He's not kidding. This is absolutely... I'm flipping through the book right now as we're recording this, and this is the single most boring book I have ever seen in my entire 31 years of living. Continue.
It actually took like 5 days. Everything took so long to tell, but even though I did not like it, I still finished it. I do know you need to leave if there's a hurricane or fire, that your family should have an emergency supply kit. This book should be read by no single person. No one. That means no one. It was so boring, I would not want to torture anyone with having to read it. I give this book a 1 out of 10 stars.
Get ready, it's time for the Bowling Score Report.
This week's bowling scores are 107, 139, and 137. I went to Skylands on Friday, and I had to pre-bowl, so I was by myself. But because I pre-bowled, I got to go to the home show this weekend and met a lot of people that want to be on my radio show. If you want to go bowling, be sure to join me Saturdays at AMF Skylands on OPT at 10 a.m. in the morning. And now it's time for an interview of an interesting person. Today's guest, well, let me get this right. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the Chicago Bear Hog himself, the one, the only, Steve Michael.
That's better than our normal ring announcer does. You might actually have a job as a ring announcer here, kid. You can let Daniel know I said that to you. You're young enough. You can keep this going for maybe 20, 30, 40 years. Yeah. Our ring announcer, he's got maybe 10 years tops on him left. So you could take a spot. By the time you're 17, you'll be ready to go. You can work this job for like 20, 30 years. It'll be great. You'll be great at it.
What made you want to be a professional wrestler, Mr. Michales?
I've always been a fan of professional wrestling. Growing up, I used to go to shows with my dad. And I used to watch it all the time with my dad. And one day I met a man who used to work for World Wrestling Entertainment. And he talked to me and he said, if you start wrestling, he's like, I used to hire the guys over there. With your look, you look like one of the kinds of guys that I would hire. So I decided to start training and become a professional wrestler because of that. I know you and your dad were at the show last night. Did you guys have fun? All right, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I used to do that with my dad all the time. And that's what got me into the business of professional wrestling.
Well, actually, I do kind of like wrestling.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And actually, last week I did Janai Kai.
Janai.
That's her name.
Yeah, I know Janai. I know Janai very well. I've trained with her for a bit.
Do you use any math language?
Not directly. We don't use math directly. There's times when we have to, if we're jumping off the top rope, we have to make sure that we're jumping out far enough. So we have to know how far our momentum and our speed will carry us to make sure that we hit our target. So in that essence, we need to use math to figure out, how fast we have to go and how quickly we have to move in order to use math. Other than that, we don't really have to use math that much.
What do you like the most about being a professional wrestler?
I really like the crowds. I like entertaining. I like performing in front of people and getting them to feel happy, to get them to feel angry at me, to be able to change their emotions. It's fun to just say something to a crowd and then have the whole crowd turn on you and just start booing you, or just say something and get the whole crowd just to start cheering your name. That's a pretty cool feeling to do. It's something that not many people get to experience. No, I mean that's my job. Most people boo me. I'm a bad guy. When I wrestle, I'm a bad guy. So not a lot of people cheer me.
Actually, I am so sorry.
I've fought Tony Storm across the state. I've wrestled him across the state of Florida, all along I-4, Tampa and Port Richey and Orlando and all points in between. And he's a really tough opponent. And last night was probably one of the toughest matches I've ever had against him. So even though he and I don't see eye to eye, and we're not good friends, my hat's off to him. I have a lot of respect for him.
Actually, I saw on Facebook that there was a video about you
I did say online that I would. I did. You just used my own words against me, kid. And I can't be mad about that. No, you're right. I did say that I was going to beat Tony Storm decisively last night, and that was not the way things worked out even remotely for me. But in my defense, the Tony that I faced last night was a more aggressive Tony than I have faced in the past. So I wasn't ready for the Tony Storm that I wrestled against last night. So in that sense, it's really not my fault that I lost.
So it's his fault?
It's yeah, I mean, it's more his fault. Look, I can watch all the tapes I want. I can watch all the videos of him. But there was nothing that I saw that prepared me for last night. So that was a whole new. I might as well have wrestled somebody different last night, because the man that I wrestled, the Tony Storm I wrestled last night, was not the Tony Storm I wrestled for the past year across the state. So in that sense, it's not my fault I lost.
And actually, I didn't want my dad to eat my Doritos, so I put it on the other side, and then I started to realize something.
Oh yeah, well, what happened?
Since they were the bad guys.
Did you start
He
booing
grabbed
them?
my Doritos and I poured it on you.
Well, I mean, if you were booing them, it sounds like, you probably deserved it.
So maybe I should have put it under here.
Or don't boo him. Don't boo him next time. I mean, if I saw you were booing me, and I saw the Doritos, I didn't see Doritos. If I saw the Doritos, I would have done the same thing.
Well, actually, they were on the other side.
See, I didn't see them. I couldn't see them. I think your dad was blocking the way at the time. I didn't see the Doritos, but I promise you, if I saw those Doritos, I would have poured them over your head too. Well, I'm glad you had fun and enjoyed watching me lose.
And I'm sad that you and I lost.
Yeah, I mean, Janai also lost, yeah. So my hats are off to her. She faced a tough opponent last night in Santana Garrett, and who actually trained her. The woman she fought last night helped train her. Yeah, so she was wrestling against her teacher. And so, of course, her teacher's going to win because the teacher still knows more than the student. And the teacher always knows more than the student.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's it wasn't really promoted as much, and a lot of people didn't know that. But Janai Santana was Janai's teacher.
Do you really get hurt when you get slammed to the ground?
It does hurt. The wrestling ring is not it's not soft. What a lot of people don't realize is it's a very thin, about maybe an inch thick of padding, if that, maybe a half an inch, and then a layer of canvas is over that. But underneath the padding are thick 2x4s, wood boards, and those are on top of steel beams, of metal beams, and that's what we're landing on. So the small padding that we have doesn't really do that much when we land on it. It protects us just enough that we're not seriously injured, but it would be like landing on this table in front of us. There's not a lot of give to that. So a lot of people don't realize that that's how the wrestling ring is made.
What do you do outside the ring for fun? Do you play video games?
When I get a chance, I do play some video games. I don't get a lot of time anymore because I do a lot of traveling. I always make time for the Lego video games. Those ones are always fun. It's for a grown adult to be saying that is weird, but I love those. The Lego games are neat because they bring in like weird, like third level characters from like comic books and things like that. And I love to read comics, so I guess I also read when I have free time.
You lived in Orlando for 3 years. Why did you move away?
I moved home. I moved down here to train to become a wrestler, and a lot of things changed in that time frame, personal things, and I decided to go home. Chicago is my hometown. I grew up there. I lived there for 28 years before I moved down here, and decided it was the right time to go back home and to move back to Chicago. So, I mean, I guess the short answer is to go home. There's no place better than being in your own home. So that's what I did.
Do you have a favorite book?
I do. My favorite book is Ready Player One, which is a really good book. They just made it into a movie this year by Steven Spielberg, and I like the book because it reminds me a lot of the stuff that I grew up with. It talks about a lot of the video games and things like that I grew up with. So that's why I like that book. It reminds me of being a kid.
Well, actually, I saw the movie.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
It's so good. It's such a good movie.
Have you seen it?
I did, yeah. I saw it in IMAX.
We saw it at, I believe, Epic Theaters.
Oh, okay.
What type of music do you listen to?
I prefer a lot of rock and roll, a lot of 90s alternative music. That's kind of that's what I grew up with. My parents listened to a lot of the oldies, the stuff from the 60s and that, and so I listen to that too. But if I have to pick one radio station, it'll be like the 90s, rock and roll, alternative, Nirvana, things like that.
Yeah. What if someone wanted to be a professional wrestler? What would you tell them to do?
I would tell them first to get their education. Wrestling is a very, very tough job. and it can end in an instant. It's very dangerous. If you don't have a degree, if you don't have education to fall back on, if something, God forbid, something happens to you, you want to be all right. You want to be able to do something else and be able to support yourself once you can't wrestle. So I'd say definitely get your education first, go to college, get your degree, and then find a school, find a good wrestling school that will train you. Find people that are known in the business, that know what they're doing, and just be open to learning. That's one thing I've found in my whole life. If you're not open to learning something new, you're never going to succeed. I started trying to become a wrestler at 29, when most of the other guys are 18, 19, 20 years old. So I was the old guy, which is weird at 29 to be the old guy. But I was always open to learning and to asking questions and not being afraid to ask what could be considered a dumb question. Because if you don't ask it, you'll never know. So yeah, just be open to always keep learning and to keep progressing your own self better. That's the best advice I can give to any professional wrestler.
Thank you so much for being my special guest. Can you stay on to help with math corners?
Yeah, I'm not terrific with math, but I will absolutely help with math.
Well, I can teach you if you want.
That would probably be helpful.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of our awesome sponsors, SlutChannelUS.com. These guys are very, very cool. They bring 21st century surface drainage solutions to reality. They can do corporate and government work. These are the guys that make roads and bridges safe in the rain. You can see all about them at SlutChannelUS.com. That website again is SlutChannelUS.com. Mid-State Fire has been providing top-quality fire equipment services for 3 generations to the Central Florida area. Don't wait for an emergency to repair. Call Mid-State Fire today at 407-246-8855. Get your fire extinguishers and emergency lighting for both your home and businesses by visiting www.midstatefire.com. That number again is 407-246-8855.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
Thank you, Mr. Mikers, for helping me with Math Corners. Today we are going to talk about the area of a rectangle. To calculate the area of a rectangle, you just need to measure the width and the length and multiply them. And and you have to use the square unit. So if it is feet, then you have to use square feet. Steve, do you know how to find the area of a wrestling ring?
Well, I know the wrestling ring that 2.0 had, the one that you saw last night, was a 16-foot by 16-foot ring. So
my dad was so close. I thought it was 18 foot by 5. That was
the thinnest rectangular ring I would have ever worked in. Right, it would be 16 times 16.
I know the answer now. It was 256, because the square root of 256 is 16.
That sounds accurate to me. I'm not gonna question you. My high school math teacher, Mr. Peterson, would really dislike the fact that I don't know this. But you said it with enough conviction.
Freaked out.
You said it with enough conviction that I'm just gonna believe you that's the right answer.
That is obviously yes. Is obviously the right answer.
Okay, well, I mean, WWE rings, the professional WWE rings that you see on TV, are 20 by 20. They're a little bit larger than these
20
rings.
20 20 times 20 is... Do you know?
That would be
400.
400. I was just gonna say that. You said it
You
a little
already-
bit faster
I
than
believe
Steve Michales could.
Like, I know the answer so quickly.
Working your way to a bear hug, kid.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
And now it's time for Heart of a Lion. We at the Tiberius Show like living with the heart of a lion. Living with the heart of a lion stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. We asked Dr. Ferret exactly what that means.
Leadership is really about influence. Leadership is, and the way we define it is good leadership, is about setting the right example and encouraging other people to do the right thing. Integrity is about doing right no matter what. Through life, there are a lot of different circumstances that arise, and integrity, someone who shows integrity, it doesn't matter what all the external things are, they always choose to do what is right. Obedience is about obeying those who are in authority over you, whether that's a teacher, a boss, a parent, that when you are asked to do something, that you respond with obedience, quickly and completely. Nobility is about having respect. It's about carrying yourself with respect and showing respect to others. When you put these four things together, that's Lion Strong.
This week we are going to talk about obedience. Some good qualities of obedience are respect for the law and obeying with a good attitude. You can tell when someone is obedient when they follow instructions willingly and work at constantly doing what they are supposed to. I think obedience is being fully committed to doing what God wants me to do. This week I did obedience by going to bed on time each day and getting ready for school the first time when I was last. And I did it with a great smile on my face. I know it is important to do what my mommy and daddy ask, and that is obedience. My mom does obedience when she stops at red lights. That is following the law. My dad, not so much. Sometimes I see he has gone through a red light because he is suddenly colorblind. And he gets mad when he gets a ticket in the mail. Mr. Michales, did you see or use obedience this week at all?
I did at the airport. You got to go through the TSA now. Take your shoes off, and you got to have like 6 ounces of liquid or less, which is stupid. But I made sure that I had the right amount of liquid in my bag, and followed the rules that the TSA told me to. Took my shoes off, even though I had to untie them and then retie them once I got out, and I was late for my flight. But I still did it because that's what I was supposed to do. So that was probably the most obedient that Steve Michales will ever be, and it's because I needed to catch a flight.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank you, the one, the only, the Chicago Bear Hug himself, Steve Michales, for being my special guest this week.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm like, you really need to become our new announcer, because that is so much better than our current announcer. Just don't tell him I said it, or tell him, I don't care. But thanks for having me.
But actually, I would rather not.
All right, but you should. You get paid well.
And be sure to listen to us next week on the Tiberius Show. And your host, Tiberius Boy.
The Tiberius Show is not filmed in front of a live studio audience. Executive producer Joseph Boy. Production editor Pierre Laguerre. Green Room manager Danny Boy. Broadcast associate James Smith. And your program host, Tiberius Boy. The Tiberius Show is copyright 2018.